Okay, so chapter 1 is called Linear Functions and Change. So one of the areas that math is really interested in is how things change over time or over distance or different things. So that's what we're going to be focused on pretty much throughout this course. And our first section is called Functions and Function Notation. So when you think of functions, you probably think of something like f of x is equal to 2x plus 3. Okay? And you can take a value of x. So maybe we look at when x is equal to 5. We would say that this function then is 2 times 5 plus 3. So that gives us 13. Okay, that's pretty common. If I ask people to give me an example of a function, I usually get something along those lines. So let's try and put that into words. So a function is a rule that takes certain numbers, and these certain numbers are going to be our inputs. So it takes certain numbers as inputs and assigns exactly one output number. So you only get one output number for each one of these input numbers. So picture-wise, we can look at this over here on the right. So if x1 is my input number, I can apply my function and I'll get my output number, which is f of x1, or commonly called y with a little 1 next to it. Okay? So these inputs and outputs are called variables. Our input is our independent variable. And our output is our dependent variable. Okay, and you probably have heard of this also, that this set of all of our inputs or all of our independent variables, that's our domain. And the set of all of our outputs is our range. So that might be terminology that you're familiar with from a previous class. Okay, so that's our definition of a function. And what we're going to look at in this section is 4 ways of talking about a function. So we're going to look at words, which is everybody's dreaded word problems. I'm so sorry. Tables, graphs, and formulas. And our formulas would be like this f of x is 2x plus 3. So hopefully that'll seem a little bit familiar. But let's look at an example of this. So before beginning percussion class this semester, Kenji knew 6 pieces of music. And the professor expects that he will learn 2 new pieces each week. All right, so this would be the words part of talking about a function. This is going to be our table over here. So in week 0, so these are our inputs here, and then we're going to put our outputs over here. So in week 0, so before he starts the class, he knows 6 pieces of music. At the end of the first week, he's supposed to have learned 2 new pieces of music. So that would bring his total up to 8. At the end of the second week, he'll learn 2 more. So he's at 10 pieces, and then 12, and then 14, and so on. Okay. So there's a table that represents our function. Now let's take a look at this graph. So we have some boxes on here, which looks like are a little bit difficult to pick up on the camera. So let me kind of fill in these tick marks here for you. Okay, so along the bottom, I'm going to go by 1. So this is 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So we'll put our weeks over here on our horizontal axis. And on our vertical axis, we're going to put the number of pieces. So use an N for the number of pieces. And these numbers grow pretty quickly. So what I want to do is start, make each block worth 2. So this will be 2, so 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and there's 16. So at the very beginning, at week 0, we have 6 pieces of music. At the end of the first week, we have 8 pieces. At the end of the second week, we have 10. At the end of the third week, we have 12. That should be enough for us to draw this line in here. So there's our graph. So we have words, table, graph, and then the last part of this is our formula for our function. So we know that the number of pieces is is going to be equal to, we started with 6, and then we added 2 for each week. So we'll do 6 plus 2 times the number of weeks. Okay, and so I'm going to change that to match this W and N that we're using for variables. So N is equal to 6 plus 2W. Okay, so there is our formula.